You're watching Tag TV.
Hello viewers, I'm your host Chandrakala Chaudhary with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin today's show with the 19th Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit held in the Kyrgyz capital, Bishkek. While the South Asian country, India, that joined the grouping in 2017, appealed all the members to join hands in fighting the menace of terrorism, other South Asian country, Pakistan, that has been exposed time and again for perpetrating terror in the region, found itself getting cornered. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi snubbed Imran Khan and refused to have any exchanges, whether political or personal, with him. A report.
Executive heads of all member states of Shanghai Cooperation Organization gathered under one roof to further boost the multilateral ties and discuss the prevalent social, cultural and economic issues. They exchanged opinions about topical matters concerning the organization's operation and the international agenda. Apart from key issues that were discussed in the summit, the principal focus was leadership of India and Pakistan, which hasn't engaged in months despite being immediate neighbors. An already strained relationship between the countries hit an unprecedented low after a terror attack carried out by Pak-based organization killed several paramilitary personnel in India. Reiterating his commitment towards tackling the mounting menace of terrorism, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi proposed the international summit to deal with the terrorism.
लिटरेचर और कल्चर हमारे समाजों को एक सकारात्मक गतिविधि प्रदान करते हैं। खासकर ये हमारे समाज में युवाओं के बीच रेडिकलाइजेशन फैलाने से रोक सकता है। टीम फॉर टेररिज्म फ्री सोसाइटी पिछले रविवार श्रीलंका की अपनी यात्रा के दौरान मैं सेंट एंटनी में एक चर्च गया था। वहां मुझे आतंकवाद के उस घिनौने चेहरे का स्मरण हुआ जो हर कहीं कभी भी प्रकट होकर रोज मासूमों की जान लेता है। इस खतरे से निपटने के लिए सभी मानवतावादी ताकतों को अपने अपने संकीर्ण दायरे से निकलकर एकजुट हो जाना चाहिए। आतंकवाद को प्रोत्साहन, समर्थन और वित्त प्रदान करने वाले राष्ट्रों को जिम्मेदार ठहराना जरूरी है।
All the members countries vowed to fight terrorism. The SCO platform has also been utilized by the member nations to hold bilateral meetings and improve their ties. Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin met on the sidelines of the event and committed to engage more in future. Both the countries have worked extensively for each other for years. Area of defense has been the forte of Russia and India has been its principal importer. Putin underlined that the bilateral engagements between two countries were only going up.
Хочу вас сердечно поздравить с победой вашей партии на выборах, с убедительной победой и с избранием вас вновь на должность премьер-министра Индии. Уважаемый господин премьер-министр, за предыдущие годы мы очень много сделали для развития наших отношений межгосударственных. И они развивались поступательно, в том числе благодаря вашим личным усилиям, вашему вниманию к развитию российско-индийских отношений. Вы награждены высшей государственной наградой Российской Федерации орденом Святого Апостола Андрея Первозванного. Я вас хочу еще раз тоже и с этим поздравить.
Modi also held talks with Chinese Premier Xi Jinping and discussed multiple ways that both countries can work towards in order to augment their relationship. Since its formation, the SCO has focused on regional non-traditional security with counter-terrorism as a priority. The fight against the three evils of terrorism, separatism and extremism has topped the charts of cooperation. Military exercises are also regularly conducted among members to promote cooperation and coordination against terrorism and other external threats, and to maintain regional peace and stability.
SCO has emerged as one of the most powerful groupings in the world. We are now joined by Ranjit Rai, a geopolitical expert on South Asian affairs, who will give us more insights into developments at Bishkek. So, Mr. Ranjit, what according to you are the major takeaways of this year's SCO summit?
Today, it has got 20% of the world GDP, it has got 40% of the world's population, and therefore it got a geostrategic act when in 1917, Pakistan and India became members of this. Military exercises were started and a group of cooperation was started. So the giveaway from this is, for the second time, President Putin, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping are meeting, and they are going to discuss terrorism, they are going to discuss economy, and these will be the takeaways. Well, already Prime Minister Modi has had a meeting with President Xi Jinping and has said unless Pakistan behaves, we cannot talk to Pakistan unless it stops terrorism.
Well, India has rebuffed Pakistan at global platform. Do you see Pakistan increasingly getting isolated in the region?
There is no doubt Pakistan is getting isolated. The only good friend left is one financier, Saudi Arabia, religious things. It has got problems with Iran, it has got big problems with India, and Imran Khan, the Prime Minister, has been almost, I wouldn't use the word, but I will have to use it, begging India to talk. Now, if that is not a pressure point, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Imran Khan sat across the table on dinner at the SCO dinner, and they didn't talk to each other. They went to the Philharmonic Orchestra. They sat few seats away, they did not. I think evidently the world is looking at this SCO conference because it is not only a peace and security conference, it has got a geostrategic angle of what is the future. And the three friends, President Xi Jinping, Prime Minister Modi and President Putin are there to talk actual Turkey on terrorism, trade war, economy and the future of Trump putting pressure on the East.
Moving on, amid a deepening economic crisis, Pakistan presented its financial budget aimed at securing a $6 billion bailout from International Monetary Fund. The government announced the widening of tax net and a separate tax policy for revenue collection. The spending on civilian programs was cut, while the budget allocation to its military was raised by 5%. Imran government says that it will bring the country back on track, but the numbers and the analysts are suggesting opposite. A report.
Amid shouts and protests from opponents in parliament, Pakistan's junior minister for revenue, Mohammad Hamas, announced country's yearly budget, which opponents have termed as the IMF budget. Seeking final approval for International Monetary Fund bailout, the government had already prepared the ground for widespread belt tightening. But the goals unveiled by Revenue Minister Hamad Azhar for the fiscal year to June 2020 underline the scale of the economic challenges it faces. He forecast a budget deficit of 7.1% of gross domestic product after the gap in the current year blew out to 7.2%. He also targeted federal tax revenues of $36.80 billion, up 25% and driven by a lower introductory threshold for income tax and a clampdown on tax evasion.
बैंकों के मजमूई तौर पर तकरीबन 5 करोड़ अकाउंट हैं जिनमें से सिर्फ 10% टैक्स अदा करते हैं। SECP में रजिस्टर्ड 1 लाख कंपनियों में से सिर्फ 50% टैक्स देती हैं। बहुत से पैसे वाले लोग टैक्स में हिस्सा नहीं डालते। नए पाकिस्तान में इस सोच को बदलना होगा। जब तक हम अपने टैक्स के निज़ाम को बेहतर नहीं करेंगे, पाकिस्तान तरक्की नहीं कर सकता।
Prime Minister Imran Khan's administration has been forced to seek what would be Pakistan's 13th IMF bailout since the late 1980s to stabilize an economy that has seen growth plunge while teetering on the verge of a balance of payments crisis. The rupee has lost about a third of its value this year and inflation has jumped above 9%. In April, the government secured a provisional $6 million IMF loan, but it is cognizant on measures being taken to cut a budget gap that the fund forecast at 7% in 2018 and 2019.
हमने मुल्क की खातिर मुश्किल राह का इंतखाब किया है। जैसा कि पहले कहा गया कि हमने माली इंतज़ाम के हर शोबे जैसे मैक्रो पॉलिसी रिफॉर्म से लेकर बिजनेस फ्लो तक और कर्ज की वसत मुद्दती पॉलिसी तक हर मामले का एहताता किया है। पहले एक आध साल सख्त होगा, मगर फिर पायदार बुनियादों पर हमारी मेहनत का फल इंशाल्लाह मिलना शुरू हो जाएगा, जिसका फ़ायदा सब लोगों को होगा।
According to the World Bank report, Pakistan's GDP growth is estimated to decelerate to 3.4% in the fiscal year 2018 to 2019 and is further expected to drop to 2.7% in the next fiscal year. Though there are many reasons why Pakistan has lost out, including political instability, faulty economic policies and widespread corruption, but religious fanaticism is the most significant and major contributor in reducing the economic growth.
Moving on, before visiting Kyrgyzstan, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was hosted by island nations and India's neighbours Sri Lanka and the Maldives. Apart from discussing the entire gamut of bilateral ties separately with both countries, Modi committed to work in the direction of further enhancing the ties. He also used the platform of Maldivian Parliament to appeal the world for joining hands in their fight against the rapidly growing menace of terrorism. A report.
The archipelago nation of the Maldives, which witnessed quite an unusual transition of power only months back, welcomed Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his first foreign trip since he assumed office for the second consecutive term. A slew of agreements and MOUs were signed in a bid to further enhance the ties between both countries that was severely damaged during the reign of Abdullah but returned to normal after a truly democratic leader, Ibrahim Mohammad Soleh, returned to power. India has shown interest in developing ferry services, port terminals and a national cricket stadium in the country. India is pursuing what it calls a neighbourhood-first foreign policy centred on its allies in South Asia, and it has been reaching out all except Pakistan, the country which is responsible for by and large all the terror attacks on Indian soil. Modi was also conferred with the highest honour of Maldives, rule of Nishan-Izzuddin. President Ibrahim Mohammad Soleh, who himself presented the honour to Modi, is seeking closer ties with India of late. While addressing the lawmakers of the country, Modi urged the world community to come together in fighting what he referred as state-backed terrorism.
आतंकवादियों के न तो अपने बैंक होते हैं, न टंकसाल और न ही हथियारों की फैक्ट्री। फिर भी उन्हें धन और हथियारों की कभी कमी नहीं होती। कहां से पाते हैं ये सब? कौन देता है उन्हें ये सुविधाएं? आतंकवाद की स्टेट स्पॉन्सरशिप सबसे बड़ा खतरा बना हुआ है।
Modi also visited the island nation of Sri Lanka, which is still recuperating from the deadly Easter Sunday bombings, in which more than 250 people had lost their lives. Modi prayed and placed flowers at St. Anthony's Shrine, a Catholic church in Colombo that was bombed on April 21st, along with 2 other churches and 4 hotels. Modi, who is the first foreign leader to visit Sri Lanka since the attacks, reassured its leadership that India was always there for the island nation. Expressing solidarity, he said he was certain that Sri Lanka will rise again and the cowardly acts of terror cannot defeat its spirit. New Delhi is also looking at more multilateral investment projects modelled on a draft agreement to develop a port terminal with Japan in Colombo that was signed last month. Modi's trip to the Maldives and Sri Lanka was viewed as a statement of intent to counter the rise of China, which has been making strategic inroads in the Indian Ocean in recent years and seeking closer military ties. In recent years, Beijing financed different infrastructure in both the countries, especially for its navy. The debt for those projects has, however, become a burden for both. Both the countries, after realizing the expansionist agenda of China, have been forced to turn their heads towards New Delhi, a perennial ally and the biggest player in the region.
Moving on, the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, or SIGAR, a US congressional watchdog, has warned that the war-torn country, which has increasingly been discouraged from involving in poppy cultivation, stands on the verge of being declared a narco state. Despite several efforts of the government, including a ban on poppy cultivation, people are just not ready to give up on poppy farming. A report.
Despite government's sustained efforts to discourage and curb the opium production in the country, Afghanistan continues to lead the global opium production. A stagnant economy, a better lifestyle, and government's failure to bring alternate sources of employment has kept people hooked to the farming of opium. Poppy fields like this are found all over Afghanistan. They harvest this sticky sap for opium and heroin. In spite of laws banning the cultivation, people who are involved in the farming say that they are not afraid of anyone as they have no option available other than the opium cultivation.
غواړم چې زه خپل تعلیم وکړم، تربیه وکړم، خپل د ځان تربیه وکړم او د دې کار شوق هېڅوک نه لري. په دې خاطر زه د دې کار شوق نه لرم، ځکه چې موږ اوس خو زه ورته مجبور یم دې کار ته چې زه دا کار وکړم. موږ اقتصادي مشکلات یې، اقتصاد مو ډېر کمزوری دی. دا کار په دې خاطر زه کوم چې زموږ اقتصاد کمزوری دی، او بل چې دی دولت مثال خبرې موږ ته پاملرنه نه ده کړې، موږ اقتصاد یې نه دی راقوي کړی.
There are tens of thousands of opium farmers like him. Afghanistan has led global opium production for years, despite almost $8 billion spent by the US government to stop production and trafficking. And efforts to develop alternative crops like saffron have been somewhat successful, but that hasn't put a dent in the drug trade.
پیسې چې لاس ته مې وړلې، بیا زه خپل اقتصاد هم په قوي کولی شم او تعلیم هم ښه هوسا سره کولی شم. نو په دې خاطر زه دا حکومت راته وایي چې دا مه کوئ، نو خو موږ ورته مجبور یو، نو موږ بله کومه خواري وکړو؟ موږ دې ته مجبور یو چې دا خواري وکړو.
The country has been busy trying to settle an 18-year war. And as it struggles with the expanding control of the Taliban, recent efforts to clear opium crops have been hamstrung. According to a US congressional watchdog, Afghanistan is at risk of becoming a so-called narco state. The Afghan authorities do not have much at their disposal to help the people involved.
زما پیغام ټولو محترمو بزګرانو ته دا دی چې د دې شومې پدیدې په عوض باندې چې زموږ اولاد زموږ فامیل او زموږ کورنۍ په اخته کېږي ولو که د افغانستان یو شخص معتاده کېږي دا زموږ ستاسو د ټوله فامیل د کورنۍ سړی تشکیلوي.
Harvest season lasts less than 20 days a year, but it gives Ahmadi a big boost to his income. Ahmadi sees little choice on farming narcotics. He is the breadwinner of a family of 14.
Moving on to Himalayan nation of Nepal, where people carried out a huge procession to mark the annual Chariot festival. The festival has historically been observed to appease rain gods and bring good harvest to the country. The 1600-year-old festival is celebrated by observing Bhoto Jatra, or the Vest Festival, in which a jewel-studded vest is displayed to public by authorities. A report.
Rato Machindranath festival is celebrated in Nepal every year to ensure good fortunes for people in the mountainous country. Known to be the longest procession of the year, the festival is celebrated by pulling a giant wooden wheeled chariot through the city. The centuries-old ritual is said to assure rain and a good harvest, as well as guarantee good omens for the country's rulers. During the festival, an idol of Rato Machindranath is mounted on a chariot with large wheels that groan as devotees haul it through the streets.
कर्कोट नागराजाको आँखा दुखेको रहेछ नागराजको स्वास्नीको अनि नागराजको स्वास्नीलाई उहाँले औषधि गर्दा पनि निको नभएपछि एकजना खेतमा काम गर्ने जाफुलाई लिएर गएछ उहाँले अनि उसले के गरौँ आफ्नो कोखबाट मैलो निकालेर त्यो आँखामा लगाइदिएछ अनि आँखा निको भयो निको भएपछि उसलाई वरदान दिएछ तिमीले के माग्छौ हामी दिन्छौ भनेर.
During the concluding ceremony, the bhoto or jewel-studded vest is displayed to the public by the local authorities. The bhoto has pearls and jewel attached to it, which is displayed annually to the common people. The jewel-studded vest is packed and kept inside the cloth pouch for a year and opened only in the presence of state heads on particular day fixed by the priest. It is believed that the vest was originally presented to a farmer who lost it to a ghost. Every year, priests present the vest in the chariot, hoping the rightful owner would take ownership. It is a tradition which has been followed for a long time, and the bhoto has remained unclaimed since then.
Well, there are several festivals in the country that are based on people's faith and belief. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.